Over Shabbos. The New Testament out here.
We go a little bit behind you. We got to 2 dots at the top.
Oh, okay. So we went like towards the middle.
Yeah.
The second day, because you're supposed to have a lecture on the differences between Yerushalmi and the Bavli, instead, it wasn't 7 o'clock, it was 8 o'clock.
Should have come? Okay. Yerushalmi base 26. Rabbi Yaakov Bracha. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down. Rabbi Yaakov Bracha B'Shem Rabban. Rabbi Yaakov Bracha, named Rabbi, said, Yain she'oser b'shtiya, wine. Now this I should present the principle before the actual Gemara. The halacha is, this is discussed in very great detail in halacha, far more in the Yerushalmi, I assume in the Bavli, and far more in the poskim than in the Yerushalmi or the Bavli. If you buy jugs, used jugs from Goyim, which obviously in the old days they needed to do, so that you have to, the halacha requires that in order to use them, if they were used for wine previously, you have to rinse them out 3 times. Now leave each rinse of water in there for 24 hours. Okay? So you rinse it out, you leave water 24 hours, rinse out, 24 hours, rinse out, 24 hours, rinse out. What? The Sephardim do that. We don't do that for Pesach. No, only the Sephardim do it. By glasses. They do it for glasses. We don't do it for glasses. So, Rabbi Yaakov Rabban said, Yain she'oser b'shasiya, wine which is forbidden to drink, u'muter ba'noah, and it's permitted to derive benefit from, meaning stam yenam, wine, you buy a gallo wine or something like that, which we assume was not used for avodah purposes, but since it belonged to Goyim, is forbidden. Now, if you put that into a jug, the jugs now become like the wine, and therefore the jugs now have absorbed that wine, and the jugs now will impart that prohibited taste to any kosher wine which is placed in the jug. Okay, that was round 1. Pinot becomes a soch yain acher. So you took out that forbidden wine, again, stam yain, not yain nesach mamish, wine which is forbidden in hanoah, but mutter, forbidden in drinking, but mutter to derive benefit from. Pinot, you took that becomes a soch yain acher, you put in other wine. Nasa yain kikankani, that second wine is now like the jugs, and of course it becomes prohibited to drink, but mutter to do business with and derive benefit from. Okay, that's round number 2. Right? Pinot, because it's also yain acher, the third time around you put wine in it, hayain also, the wine is forbidden still. The wine is still forbidden because it absorbs the prohibited taste from the wine in the jugs. But now, the wine has gone through 3 rinse. The wine has gone through 3 rinse cycles, right? Because you had the wine. Now the chiddush is that even the gallo wine, the chiddush is that even the gallo wine that you put in the... I hope there's a hold. The chiddush is that even the gallo wine you put in the first time, that also helps in the rinse cycles, right? In other words, as long as it wasn't yain nefs the first time, so the first cycle is the gallo wine, the next 2 cycles are the permitted wine. At the end of those 3 cycles, the jugs are mutter, even though the wine is also after each of those times. But the jug is the jugs are permitted, okay? So it's interesting the way it works. That's the chiddush here. Now, why do they say that the wine, the next 2, the wine absorbs the taste? Even the last time, the wine becomes usher in drinking and mutter to derive benefit from. Just like the jugs become mutter, the wine itself should become mutter the third time, right? The wine should be no worse than the jugs themselves, right? Now, truth is, in fact, I saw just in a very brief look in the Shulchan Aruch, if you put water in, the water is mutter. The water is mutter to drink, right? It's only the wine which is mutter to drink the third time.
It's probably not Tam Shvat, that's why.
I would say it's not Tam Shvat, but the Gemara gives a different reason here. So that would make sense and may be true, but the Gemara here gives a different reason.
Maybe because one is minimum amino?
Well, I would also have thought that too, but the Gemara gives a different reason, much more about it. You guys are all very big Lamdanim, of course. But the Gemara is much more about it. Begin the Rabbi Meir, Omar also b'shasiv, because we had an opinion in the Mishnah, Rabbi Meir was super machmir, that even wine which is stam yenom is prohibited in hanoah and in shasiya, not to derive any benefit from. So they didn't want to be so lenient, right? They didn't want to say, well, we, arguing Rabbi Meir, so diametrically opposed that we even are matir this wine derive benefit from, to drink, they didn't want to say that, okay? So, that's halach. Now, the truth is, Meir, I don't think it's going necessarily in Stam Yenom. Meir is really answering the wine which was in a jug which once belonged to a goy. I should have clarified that. It was my misspeaking. It's not that Meir forbids Stam Yenom, the gallon of wine, and about no benefit. He says that the kankanim which come from a goy, which once might have been used to store yain nesach, they remain osir Israelim. So we don't say that. We say after 3 rinsings they become mutter. But nevertheless, you don't want to be matir. All the stuff which is used in the rinsing process, we don't want to be matir that in our no. Okay? Says the Gemara, when he went to the city of Ziporim, wherever that was also surely they came and asked him, how do you take drugs which belong to Goy and permit them? So he said, Mizuli Matilim. He said, with this I taught them what to do. Now bear in mind, the old days when they had jugs, the jugs were lined with pitch. Okay? So the pitch really is much more absorbent than the jug itself. So he said, listen, what you guys have to do is like this. What you do is, by the way, it's not really, I should clarify that. Pitch is not meant to be absorbent. On the contrary, the reason you put pitch in it is in order to prevent absorption in the walls of the jug, right? Because the jug is pottery, right? The pitch is not pottery. The pitch is made to waterproof it. But nevertheless, it absorbs the taste to a much greater extent. The taste of the wine gets mixed in with the pitch. That's part of what makes the pitch waterproof is the fact it gets logged with the wine, and when it gets logged with the wine, so then that becomes that keeps it from going further. So in any event, so here he says that what he told them in Ziporin was they came and asked Kankanim Shal Nochrim by Meitaros, how do you get rid of their problem, right? Amr says this is what I taught them. If they're not lined with pitch at all, at Mar Mutzorin, you say that it's permitted. Now, what does that mean? They're permitted. So the Pnei Moshe says if they're brand new, they're permitted. But that's obvious, really. The Shai Yisrael says that if they're not lined, they're permitted by doing the 3-day business of putting in rinsing 3 days. So he said if they're not lined, you can do the 3-day business, right? Of rinsing 3 days, the course of 3 days. So b'shosh fusos, when they are lined, but you remove the lining, lo koshke. So somehow if you remove the lining, that's going to work. That should work. That's what Rabbi Kiva taught when he went to Ziporim. But he said, when he came to his friends, meaning his fellow rabbis, back from his field trip, they said, no, you were wrong. When they have pitch in them, they're worse, because the pitch causes more taste being imparted to the pottery. So it's entirely possible that the pitch makes it worse. Okay? Says the Gemara, so actually, I don't know he passed about that. The truth is I didn't really pay attention to how he passed by lined and not lined. But from Yerushalmi it's mashma, if it's lined, it's worse than when it's unlined. Okay. Says more, if the guy put inside the jugs, sear is a fish brine, and murias is also some sort of briny substance. What is it?
You skipped 2 lines.
Oh, sorry, I skipped, right. Now here the shunu and the schos in the bottom, the mecha mayim both change it to konas anachli sochan yain. The guy put inside the jug wine. So konas the yisrael's konas sochan mayim. He puts in water, and the water is 3 times. Okay, he puts in the water 3 times. Because of konas sochan yain, and he puts in wine afterwards. Not a problem. We're saying is you don't need something equivalent in strength to wine to rinse out the jugs. Water does the trick as well. Okay? If, however, the guy put in them a stronger substance which are prohibited, fish brine or something of that sort, so the Jew puts in yain, he can put inside wine, and that's not a problem. Okay? But in that case, he really has to use wine instead of water, because water will take out the taste of wine, but it won't take the taste of brine. So, brine, you need a stronger substance, a wine taste, in order to remove it. Okay? Says the Gemara, if you put in them wine, you saw shiur or murias, the Jew can put in then brine, because the put a wine, put it in the and that doesn't have to be concerned. Now I saw in the poskim, although the Yerushalmi itself is unclear, but the poskim actually say that if you use a briny substance, you don't need the 3 days. Even 1 day is enough. So it's possible Yerushalmi is referring to that because the 3 days and switching water every one of the 3 days is when you're using water because it goes slower in taking out the taste. But if you use brine of some sort, then that itself goes quicker, right?
It absorbs it.
The salt moves right. So it could be that's who Yerushalmi is referring to. I didn't write that down in my notes, but now in retrospect it makes sense to me. Okay, so as more Rabbi Yochanan Nafak, it should be La'apante, Rabbi Yehuda ben Nasiya. He went out to greet Rabbi Nasiya La'akko, to the town of Akko. After Shalom later came and asked him, Kankani B'meita also, and how do you purify these jugs? How do you purify jugs? Amar Mizuli Matilam, and he said, this is how I taught them. My Bishash Konas Nachla Socha Tochan Sira Murias, if when a guy put inside shiur or murias, right, he put inside brine of some sort, the Jew puts inside wine, and that's mitar it, so too, blank. The Gemara didn't let him finish the statement. Gemara stops in mid-air. The Gemara made as machlokas as to what Rabbi Yochanan meant. Doesn't even let Rabbi Yochanan finish the statement.
Is this the incident? Before first what the status of Akko is, we talked about...
that was Tanoim, not Rabbi Yochanan.
Oh, it was
Tanoim. Okay. So Rabbi Yochanan, so you said... Well, it seems to be working. So he said, so what do you mean to say? So Rabbi Yasser B'Shem said, B'Shoshem Achnisan L'Ur Koshkein. Not, in other words, if you can use fish brine, you can use wine to take out the prohibited fish brine, so certainly you can put them into a, and redo them in a kiln, and that way they're going to be fine. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Chiya B'Shem Yehuda said B'Shoshem Mashchil as Zifton. I don't know exactly mashchil is, but somehow it's also through heat. I think you're removing the lining, the pitch line. The kosher is not a kavachom. It certainly works. Says more what the kaiminun are the jugs going to survive the kiln? They're going to burst in the kiln. You know what the good does it do to put them in the kiln? You won't have any jugs or pot shards. Says the Gemara, no, income. If they survive the process, they survive the process. It's a risk, but you want kosher jugs, you gotta suffer. Says Marka, kind of shaynas fusos. Now, so basically we don't know what Rabbi Yochanan said. It could be said something about a fire, it could be said something about moving the pitch. Lamaisa, it's unclear what he actually said in Akko. Says Marka, kind of shaynas fusos, if you unpitched jugs. Rabbi Yassi Omar Suros, Rabbi Yassi said they're forbidden, even through the 3-day business of Rabbi Yami Omar Mutaros. Rabbi Yami said it's mutar. Okay? Rabbi Yassi Maksha, Rabbi Yaakov said, I don't understand, I can be matir, the unlined jugs. Okay? Now, we don't know again about lined jugs, right? Lined jugs sounds like you really have to put them in the fire, right? It's not clear exactly, what works by lined jugs, right? Again, I told you, I'm not sure exactly what works by lined jugs, but it sounds from Rabbi Yochanan that you really have to put them in the fire and melt the pitch or something like that. But unlined jugs in and of itself is a machlokas. Rabbi Yassi holds its sauce. Rabbi Yami said it's mutar. Rabbi Yassi makshi. Rabbi Yassi said Rabbi Yassi asked the following question: Kinan or minan? Ayin kuzo lo bola. Do we say that how can you say that you can do this business with the days and the water? Don't we say that a kuza, it's a certain measure which you store stuff, also right, basically store wine. Don't you say it absorbs? And Rabbi Amar Rav Sheshes Shoel, Rabbi said Rav Sheshes asked, what do we say? Don't we say Hain Dohun Shomemi Raglaim, a chamber, whatever it's called, chamber pot, a chamber pot, what do they call it? Where you urinate at night? Urine, what? It's not urinal, bathroom. It's a chamber pot, right? So a chamber pot, so low ball, it doesn't absorb. And Lamaisa, those, the halacha is if you have a chamber pot, even if it's empty, you have to stand 4 amos away from it in order to daven, right? So therefore we see they're absorbent. So wine in a jug should be of a similar nature. So how can water clean out the jug? Now Lamaisa, I didn't look up the halacha, but I think the halacha taki is based on the sugya that if you cleaned it out 3 days, meis lace, the chamber pot with the water, your taka can daven in its vicinity. Okay, the flip side of sugya is true too, because even though Rav Ami's machmir, Rav Asi's making, we pass like Rav Asi. So like Rav Asi, the same thing you could do for your wine pot, you could do with your chamber pot. Okay, so Rabbi Yaakov Baracha, Rabbi Shimon Baracha, B'Shem Rabbi Chaim said, Kankani Nochrim, the jugs of Goyim, Memal Amayim Shloshi Yomim Mi'etz Leis. Here it is, the 3 days from 24 hours each filling of water, and then it's okay. Rabbi Yaakov Baracha, Amar Rabbi Yasi Makshi, still, Rabbi Yasi still has a question. I made a mistake with Nazi before. Rabbi Yasi is one who asks Rabbi Yami's matir. Rabbi Yasi asks us, V'adin Kain, do we do this? In other words, can you do this l'chatchila? Now, the truth is, it seems even Rabbi Yasi holds, but the evidence it works. But l'chatchila, do you allow this? There isn't a true Rabbi Yossi mir Milchaya oil uvdo kum Rabbi Mona. Rest of Rabbi Milchaya asked a question according to Rabbi Mona. Amalei said, Halashava, only b'di'evet doesn't work. Amalei, Halashavar Amalei Shari. Right? What about b'di'evet? If you already did it, he said it's mutter. Halachatchila Amalei also, but preferentially it's forbidden to do this trick. Nevertheless, Rabbi Yirmiyah Mazal Guvlana. Rabbi Yirmiyah went to a place called Guvlana. Some big barrels, memalios or jugs, memalios or shloshomim meisleis. Halach lamaisi paskin, we do the 3-day trick, okay? Says Mar Aramaya is bazad zike. There's a certain guy whose jug broke. The Kibla Yisrael Godidei, and a Jew who was, doing him a favor, took his wine into his own jug, right? Asu dukuri rabbanan. So now, but the Jew wanted to use his own jug again. How is he going to use it once he got Kodesh wine in there? So he came in front of the rabbis and asked. They said, and he passed the Lachamaisa that the 3-day trick works. Rabbi Yasa also to Rabbi Yasa went to Tzor. Chaza Yason Zaftin Zikukin Zirin. He says that he saw the Jews that they were buying lined goatskins from non-Jews, right? So he said, Man Charluchu. Who was matter this to you? So they said, Shalom Rabbi Yitzhak Rabbi Mona, they tag us Rabbi Mona Vasar, and they forbade it because the lined jugs in and of themselves might have been used yain nesach or stam yenom in order to make the pitch resistant. So therefore it's forbidden to buy it. Now it doesn't say again, I really didn't look it up, it doesn't say again if there's any heter, once it is lined, to do anything to kasha the lining. But the general gist of the sukkah that we understand is only in the pottery itself can you do the 3-day trick, not when it's lined. When it's lined, you really have to peel off the lining in order for it to work. And even then, the Chaverim said to Rabbi Kiva, maybe even peeling off the lining does no good because through the lining, the pitch lining, more stuff gets in the pottery itself. Okay? We switch sugyas. The pits and the skins of the non-Jewish the grapes are surin, they are forbidden. Isurin Isra, no, and therefore prohibition is a prohibition in benefit. If they are still moist, they're forbidden. The Yavashim, if they're dry, there's no grape juice left in them. Then mutarim, they're okay. Rav said, moist ones are forbidden even in benefit. Yavashim mutarim, the dry ones are permitted apilu b'achila even to eat. And that's, I guess, the heter of sun-made raisins, right? Otherwise, what heter would there be to eat raisins, right? So it says in Marvati, and then we learn I don't understand. Grapes are not also, but no, what's the issue here? Right? I take it back immediately, because obviously this is the heter. Grapes are not mutter. Grapes are not also, right? You're allowed to eat grapes. Grapes come from Chile, wherever they come. They don't come from Jewish vineyards. So if that's the case, what's the problem with the raisins, right? It's not also until it goes down until it goes into the vat. It's not quite the vat, it's a hole in the ground at the end of the wine press. And by that, the raisin shouldn't be also. Says Rabbi Shem Rabbi said it should be b'mashlim mitoch haboyim. So you're right. This type of where you fish the skins and seeds out of the wine collection vat, because then taket already is full of also wine, and that's why it's prohibited. Says the Gemara, Tamtim learned over there. So to a new, if you hold that the oil of goyim is also, which we actually don't hold that way nowadays, but the old oil goes, it's only by a new pile of pressed olives. I'll be sure if it's an old pile of pressed olives taller than the olive oil is taller. Eza Chadasha, what's new, Toshneim Masal Chodesh within 12 months. And Yeshana, an old one, where it's already dried up, is Achashneim Masal Chodesh after 12 months, then the olive oil is not also. Or not, then the olives are not also. Okay? L'maitza Bisman is how we pass in that olive oil is of goyim is mutter, right? There's shemen shalaku. I mean, he was matir, but I guess it's going quite an assumption that it was a time that it was prohibited. Okay, hamurias, the brine, vagvina, cheese, the turaiki. Turaiki is some sort of funny thing. I mean, it's not hilarious, but it's something which has to do also with the. With cheese and something of that sort. It's kind of like part of the rennet. I don't know exactly what it is. Anyway, shel nachrim, it's forbidden of goyim is also Yisur Yisra. No, it's prohibited to derive benefit from. Why? Because we assume that there was some Avodah Zarah connection. Divrei Meir. Chormi say Yisur Yisra. No, there is no Yisra. No, because although it comes from goyim and therefore we're machman, there is no Yisra. No, because it's not used necessarily for Avodah Zarah. Okay, there are some, but we've gone through the role, and the majority is not used for Avodah Zarah. Says in Mariyayin Lemuyos, if you have if you put wine into murios, I mean not you, the guy, put wine into fish brine, Rebbe Matu, Rebbe permits it. Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon, Oyser. Rabbi Lezer, Shimon says it's also. Now Rebbe is Matu because it doesn't give a taste really. You can't really taste the wine. Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Lezer Shimon says it's usher because it gives it does give a taste. So it's actually a machlokas here. No, that's not, I've got it wrong. Sorry, scratch that. I'm just looking back at Pnei Moshe. Yarim was whether you're allowed to put the wine into the murias, and this is wine of truma, not wine of avodah zarah. This is wine of truma. Are you allowed to put wine of truma into your fish brine? So Rebbe Mati, Rebbe Peretz, because it gives a taste, and it's a positive way of using the wine, this truma wine, so there's no reason not to. Rebbe Lezer, Rebbe Shimon says, Lezer Shimon says it's usher, because he holds that it's just doing it in order to cause the fish brine's bad, because kind of to blunt the bad taste of the fish brine. So you're actually not enhancing the wine, you're using the wine, and you're abusing the wine, and using it in order just to make the fish brine taste good. That's not a proper use for truma. So you can't put the truma wine into the fish brine. Okay? Therefore, the flip side of that, in Bavra and if you did put the wine in, Rabbi Elazar Rabbi says, since the wine retains its integrity, that's why you're allowed to put it in the first place, the fish brine is also for a non-Kohen, right? Whereas Rabbi Lezer or Shimon holds you shouldn't have done it because it caused the wine to lose its integrity, is why Madazarmi says now this fish brine with truma wine in it is mutter to a non-Kohen. Okay?
But you're taking the truma wine and you're using it for something that's cold?
Yeah, you did an Isser. But now that you did it, what's the status of the fish brine? Okay, that's what you say, b'di'evet. Right, Mona b'atanchum boy, right, b'atanchum asked, Kedivrei mishu mati l'zorim. This is going according to the opinion that which according to the opinion which holds that the wine is mutter to a zor, right? Rabbi Shimon's opinion, right? So according to him, because the wine is called the brine is mutter to a zor, because wine has lost its integrity. So why is the fish brine of a goy forbidden? What's the problem? They might put wine in it. The wine loses its integrity anyway, so it's not samyenim anymore, right? So it says Interesting, because it's considered to be like the cooked dish of a goy. So this is like the cooked dish of a goy, so therefore it's prohibited. Okay, because it's bishul akum. I don't know if they actually cook bride, but maluach hareo kiroteach, it's something which is salt, it's like it's boiling, and therefore according to this opinion they made it like bishul akum.
They marinate the food with brine mixed with...
Right, but it's not actual cooking. It's I mean it's like herring. It's not cooked. It's marinated, right? But I guess he held or chibar that's a form of cooking. He says no, that can't be. But time people learn uman mutter allowed to buy fish brine from a craftsman, a fish brine craftsman. Why? Because he's not going to lie to you. He's not going to say that there was no wine if there is wine, because he's very meticulous in observing his reputation as being an honest businessman, right? Sheidu munasser. If it's not a craftsman, we don't believe him, right? So it says more uman mutter. How can uman be mutter? If it's an issue of bishul akum, there is no heter of uman, right? Even if an uman cooked it, it's still also because of bishul akum. The guys who cooked it, it still remains also. So it says more lo b'sheidu mavushal. Is it not where it's not cooked? The kavos and similarly she'enu uman also. Without which it says, if it's not doesn't belong to uman, it's also. It's not for uman, it's also. What are you going to say? That it's apopi, it should be she'enu mavushal. Right, if it's not from an uman, it's not grab, it's forbidden. It should be alpha b'she'enu, even though it's not cooked. How could that be? Why should it be awesome? So the Gemara rejects this. When it says fish brine is not considered to be cooked, there's no issue. There's always a bishul akum. Bishul akum is coming up later in the Masechta. Ma'ikadun, what's the story? Eshulito sazuama. So it says, I'm going to tell you what the story is. Even if you put the wine in order to take out the negative taste, machmas avodah zarah aser. This is considered to be prohibited because of the avodah zarah issue. It's not because it has the taste of wine, but because you're deriving benefit from the wine. And deriving benefit from wine of avodah zarah, that's the prohibition. Not the taste of the wine, but the benefit of the wine. Okay? Adamras teaches us that avodah zarah is asur, the benefit one derives from avodah zarah is prohibited. But truma muter, the benefit you derive from truma is muter. Because there, you're allowed, according to Eliezer Shimon, to use the fish brine in which the wine of truma was put in, even a zor. Okay? Even a non-kohen. That who says you can take a craftsman as long as you know that he's a trustworthy craftsman. Because some craftsmen who make the brine are shoddy, mobsters, all that adulterated fish brine. So therefore you have to make sure that you know who you're getting it from. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lezer Chadamayim Nation. Now this is really not relevant to Avodah Zarah at all. Just schlepped along, piggyback on the sugya from Masechta Trumas. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lezer Machlokas. Why are you not allowed to cook wine of truma? Not allowed to cook wine of truma. So it says one of them said Chadamayim Nation Matam. It's also because you cause something to evaporate, right? And you lose something. Less people drink it. Yain b'bushel doesn't taste as good, so some people don't drink it. We don't know who said what in this machlokas. This Rabbi Yochanan asks the question, and I'm just going to say this over very superficially because it really is Truma's sugya, not our sugya. He asked a question from Rabbi Yehuda. One place it seems Rabbi Yehuda seems to indicate that Yain Bushel is not as good, and the other place he seems to indicate Yain Bushel is as good as regular wine. And Rabbi Blizzard said, no, it's not a question. But the Kohen is allowed to cook it. He's allowed to do whatever he wants with the truma. It's the Bailim, the original owners, who can't cook the wine because it's not their wine to do with it as they please. So having Rabbi Yochanan, since Rabbi Yochanan asks as a contradiction, that is mevushal better, is mevushal the same as mevushal worse, it must be that his concern is that you're causing less people to drink it because in fact you make it worse. And that's why the question on Rabbi Yehuda, how to reconcile the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Lezer held that that's not an issue. He held there's no question. Rabbi Yehuda depends who's doing the cooking, the original owner or the Kohen. Okay? Says more again, there's nothing to do with Avodah Zarah. Just piggyback on the previous sugya. Rabbi said, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yeshua. This is a very fundamental Mishnah in Shas, actually. Shov Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yeshua, when they're walking down the road, why did they make the cheese of goyim forbidden? Cheese of goyim, now allowed to buy Kraft cheese. Even though all the ingredients are kosher, it's a special day now allowed to buy Kraft cheese. Okay, there's a famous question whether Rabbi Yosheber was matir Kraft cheese in the 50s. I don't believe he actually did. I think it's a big lie. Okay? So, what? You have an A that he did it? Eight echot's not that one. Says the Gemara, is it a trustworthy A?
The rabbi of our show in Silver Spring.
Oh, okay. Okay. Anyway, be as it may, show Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Shmuel, name also Gvinas and Nachmai, they also Gvina of Goyim. Unless they said medium also became available because they use the rennet. Now the rennet is the lining of the stomach. It's not the stomach itself. It's actually refuse, bacteria, and enzymes which are within the stomach of the calf. Okay? It's not, they can't take a piece of the calf itself. They can do that, and sometimes they do that, but that's not what we're talking about here. So about actually the lining of the calf's stomach, okay? Now, because they use the rennet which comes from the lining of an avela stomach. Armalo, so he said, Valo, top between the page. Lo kavis avela, chamura, kavis chamura mi kavis avela. The lining of the stomach of an ola, of a korban ola, is more severe than the cave and the avela. But they said, kohen shadaiti off, a kohen who is not overly sensitive, literally means that he has a fine opinion, but here it means that he's a coarse fellow. Sarfa yichai, he could swallow it live. So you could open up the stomach of the korban ola and swallow the lining, right? For lo, they didn't, even though whoever passed away, I forget who said that. Somebody said that. Lo, they didn't concede the point. They said lo nani v'lo menalim. You can't derive the benefit of drinking it, but it's not meal if you did it. So l'maisa though. We know what's in Kevas Avodah Zarah, meaning that since it's only Kevas Ola, since it's only a lining and not the thing itself, it should be permitted. What's the issue? Says in L'chaz of Armalos, it changes my examination. Ramina was Kevas Egli Avodah Zarah. It's because they use the lining of a stomach of calves which were intended for Avodah Zarah. And of course, Avodah Zarah, any part of it is also Banoah. Armalos, they said, well, that's exactly what he asked him. He said, wait a minute, in Kei Loma Lo Asur Ba'no. Why did not make it Asur Ba'no? Right? If it's a Avodah Zarah issue, shouldn't just be Asur to eat, should be Asur to derive benefit from. He sealed Avrachas for Rabbi Yeshua, got distracted Rabbi Shmuel. He didn't want to answer him. Okay? And Gemara will say why. Armalos, they say, Shmachi, Hechel Dukar, how do you read the 5 pasuk? Kitovim. Now, there are many interpretations in the question and answer here. I'm going to learn here like the chidushim on the bottom here, which is a novel pshat, not like the Pnei Moshe and Zakrashi. Right? There's so brings out another pshat like the other Rishonim. Chidushim is a nice pshat. He says, how do you read this pasuk? It says, Kitovim dodecha miyayin, or Kitovim dadaich miyayin. And this is talking about Yishakeni min shikos piu, Kitovim dodecha miyayin, right? Kodesh Baruch Hu says, we say about Kodesh Baruch Hu should kiss us from the kisses of his mouth. So we said, because your love of us is more precious than wine. Or is that Kodesh Baruch Hu saying, we want Kodesh Baruch Hu to kiss us because the Kodesh Baruch Hu says to us, the milk of your breast is more precious to me than wine. So it's us telling Hashem, describing Hashem's love towards us, or it's us saying to Hashem, this is what you say about us, that you love the milk of our breasts more than wine, so therefore we want to derive, want to be kissed by you. Okay? So that's it says, Kitavin dadecha miyayin, your love is greater than wine, therefore kiss us. Or Kitavin dadayich miyayin, or because you praise the milk of our breast, therefore you want to have, be kissed by you. Or so he said, Kitavim dadayich. Said, because Hashem, we want to be kissed by Hashem because Hashem blesses us. Hashem gives us praise. They said it's not like that. Shechavero Milamedo love. The next pasuk teaches us that we're talking about a Kodesh Baruch Hu. It says the reach shmonecha toivim. It says the fragrance of your oil is good. And that's about Kosh Baruch. So too it's talking about your love is more precious to us than wine. Okay? Rabbi Yehuda said, why? What is the issue now? Golim sheshom nishchatim l'shem akum, because there are calves there which are shechted for the purpose of Avodah Zarah. So therefore, we do not use the rennet from those calves, even though it's not a Shabbat. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan said, Umar. He heard this and he said, Yofeh limdono Rabbi. Rabbi taught us good. If you slaughter an animal for Avodah Zarah, filu pirsha, even the refuse inside is usher, and the refuse includes the lining of the stomach. Rabbi Yochanan asked, nevertheless, matzah batabas. What if you find a ring in an animal which is slaughtered for Avodah Zarah? So he said, Rabbi Yosef, he said, tabas be'enohi. The ring is separate. It doesn't become usher. Pirsha. You're thinking the Spinel principle. Okay, pirsha, the refuse inside gufa is considered to be part and parcel of the body. Okay, because the enzymes, the bacteria work with the body. Okay, it says more. Said, for Ishana, you initially used to say, you cannot use rennet neither from a carcass of a dead animal nor for the rennet which comes from a goy's animal. They came and said, you can use the carcass of a dead animal. You can't use the carcass of a non-Jew. That doesn't sound right. The carcass of an animal which belonged to a non-Jew. If you use the carcass of an animal which died a natural death, but not an animal which belonged to a non-Jew. Okay? Obviously, if Rabbi Yoshua is matir gvinas nochri, he obviously had some thought to say that all rennet nowadays has a din of kevas nevela, not a din of kevas nochri for some reason. I don't know why, but he would have said that I may because goyim chutzlar is different than elsewhere. I don't know exactly. Anyway,
I thought it was only Swiss cheese that
it makes no difference. They're all the same, all made the same way. Yeah. Okay? I mean, obviously there are variations, but I think more or less the same way. Says Rabbi Baba is out there, Rabbi Yitzchak boy. Rabbi Baba is out there, Rabbi Yitzchak asked. Actually, the Kirsa in Masechta Beitza, where there's a parallel sugya in the Yerushalmi, is said Zula Hotzi Kediver. It should be Ma Kediver Rabbi Eliezer. Is this going like Rabbi Eliezer? Rabbi Eliezer Omer Machsheves Nachil Avodah Zarah. Why would you ask for every guy's animal's rennet? That would imply that every guy who has an animal, it's used for a purpose of Avodah Zarah. The Gemara doesn't answer it. The Gemara does not answer. Obviously, the answer would be that no, of course not every guy's, but they made it clear. That would be the Gemara's answer. But the Gemara doesn't bother saying that. Okay. Also, Rabbi Yassi Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yassi again saying Rabbi Yochanan. But Yishana initially said, "Mamina keva sevela." Use the keva of the rennet from a non-Jew, from a carcass of a dead animal. It died of natural causes. But not the carcass of an animal which was by a non-Jew. Then they came and they said later on, Ma'amidim bein bekevas nevela, bein bekevas hanochri. And later on, at some point, they were matir the gzeira, and they say, you know what, you can even use the keva which comes from a nochri. Says more, that's nice, but lishlan mas nisan, the language of our Mishnah is Messiah Rabbi Chia Barba. It's like a Chia Barba, because our Mishnah says quite clearly what? Our Mishnah says there's a Gzeira Gvinas Nachri, right? So it sounds like Rabbi Chia Barba, and not like Rabbi Yassi named Rabbi Yochanan. Okay? Maybe again, that would be Yoshe had to be based on the assumption Rabbi Yassi and named Rabbi Yochanan is correct, not Rabbi Chia Barba, I do not know. Kevas Nachri, Vishal Nevela, by the way, I just slipped something past you, the interpretation I just gave the Gemara is mine only, all the other Farshim say differently, but we know whose chart we shall follow. Says more further, Kevas Nachri, Vishal Nevela. They learned that the Lisha Masis Rabbi Cherba is the Lashon which we're about to bring. It's supposed to the Lashon of our Mishnah. That's how I looked differently in Beitza too. Kevas Hanochri V'Shem Levela. The Kevas, so this is a new issue according to me. Kevas Hanochri, the lining of the stomach of a guy's animal, V'Shem Levela of a Nevela is Asura, is forbidden. Kamishta Rishoina. Like Mishnah Rishoina, and Mishnah Rishoina is actually referring to Masech the Beitza, but actually, not yet. You'll see in a minute what's referring to himself base, so not this. Both are also going to Mishnah Rishoina, right? Mishnah Rishoina answered both, right? Now here it should say Kishera. This is missing. The Pnei Moshe brings it down. It's from Masechta Beitza. Kishera sheyonka mina treifa, if a kosher animal nursed from a treif animal, okay, and then you slaughter the kosher animal, kevas asura commissioner rishona. That kevas also commissioner rishona. Why? Because where did that rennet come from? It came from the treif animal. In other words, if your calf nursed from a treif mother, so the milk inside, which then goes into the stomach and forms the enzymes inside, which curdle, is from the animal which is treifa, and milk of a treifa is also. So therefore that rennet would be prohibited. Okay? Of course, it's only if you knew that your kosher calf nursed from a treifa mother, but then it would be also. Treifa shion kaminar kshera. What about the other way around? A treifa shion kaminar kshera, a treif animal which nursed from a kosher animal, kevas muteris, the kevas muter, and that is a mishnah achroina. That works out even like mishnah achroina. That works like mishnah achroina because according to mishnah velo. That's what we're saying here. So if the animal itself is a treifa and it nursed from a kosher animal, then you can use that according to mishnah achroina. Okay. Now the next line is a mistake. We take it out. It's not a mistake debates. Now, going to afilu d'yizbru. Now, the truth is, this is totally out of left field and really not relevant to our discussion here. And I'm tempted just to do it superficially, and I will do it superficially. Which is there it discusses. There's a whole discussion in Masech debates. It's one of the rare cases of Basilis Machmir. If you open up a chick, and the chick was not slaughtered properly, whether you allowed not a chick, a hen. You have the eggs inside, you're allowed to eat the eggs. And at what point you're allowed to eat the eggs? And Beit Shammai says, as long as they're completely formed eggs, you're allowed to eat them. Beit Hillel says you're not allowed to eat them because you might get mixed up with eggs which are not completely formed, still put it to be part and parcel of the hen, and therefore you require legitimate kosher slaughter. Okay? So it says, Marapil Disbu Beit Shammai ke Beit Hillel, even Beit Shammai holik Beit Hillel, it should be Mishnah Achroina, like Mishnah Achroina. In other words, that the Kevas Nevela is mutter, right? The Kevas Nevela is mutter. That's because it's Mimakom Acher. Have a Beitza Gidule Gufa. Beitza would still be a problem, and that's why Beisil is Machmir, because Beitza, it's part of the body, and therefore there's a boundary line, but Beisil is afraid he'll cross the boundary line. If we allow you to take fully formed eggs, you'll take eggs which are not fully formed, and they're part and parcel of the body of the hen, and therefore the hen is treif, those are treif as well. Keva comes from elsewhere, right? Keva is what the calf ingested from elsewhere, and therefore it's not considered to be a problem, even if the calf itself is some problem of tarfus. Nevertheless, Lamaisa, the keva inside is independent. Okay? Right, it goes like Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Bunzanei, Rabbi Yochanan. Our whole sugi is going that Maisa, Bibnosha, Rabbi Yudah ben Shemua is custodied this son of Rabbi Yudah ben Shemua. Shinbakulem Zebin Yosem Mishlosh Meotzon. The wolves in the area made treif 300 head of sheep, and of course it's a major loss. What are they going to do, right? They're treif sheep. You can't do anything with them. Some to going, yes. Chachamim gave a heter v'yitiru kivoseya. They permitted to use the rennet inside the sheep's intestines, right? The sheep are treif, but Mishnah Achroina we said, right? Beitza gidulei gufa. An egg is found inside is grow with the body is treif. The egg is treif. However, keva makom acher bola, the enzymes will come from elsewhere. Okay? Chavai b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. Now that Gemara we had way back in the Yerushalmi and Beitza. Now Gemara we had pretty recently in the Yerushalmi and Sanhedrin. Chavai b'shem Rabbi Yochanan said, the Chaver said, Rabbi Yochanan, doitim divrei seifel divrei Torah. The words of the rabbis are precious like the words of Torah. The chavivin, it should be kid divrei Torah. They're beloved and they're precious. Beloved and precious. As it says, of your palate is like good wine. Meaning Rabbanans are like the Raisos. Rabbi Yochanan said, they're beloved divrei Torah, the chavim, but they're more precious than divrei Torah. And of course, the beloved means, in essence, but they're on the same level. Chavim means they're more precious, and that's why we know the rabbis deal with the Rabbanans and Drushas before the Doraisos. Ki tovim dodech miyayin. Your love is greater than wine. Okay? The truth is, he's probably reading Ki tovim dadayich miyayin, because it's the milk of the breast of Am Yisrael, right? That's what's better than wine. Right, Bob Akoim Shemar said, I'll prove it to you that they're more precious. Sharei Rabbi Tarfon, famous Gemara and Baruchos, Rabbi Tarfon almost lost his life because he lay down to read Kriya Shema like Beis Shammai at night in the forest and a lion came along. Right? Ilu Korah, where you not have to have read Shema at all to transgress the Doraisa, Lo Yover El Basei, wouldn't have transgressed anything, just the minor Asay, that Asay, not reading Kriya Shema. Not minor, but not say. But because he transgressed Basil, said you don't lie down to read, therefore Chai Misa was liable to the death penalty. Hashem, as it says, somebody who breaks the fence, will be bitten by the snake. Tani Rabbi Shmuel said a similar idea. Divrei Torah, and the Torah said Yesh Ben Isavet, Yesh Ben Eter. Something is prohibited, something is permitted. Yesh Ben Kalin, something is lighter, Yesh Ben Chomer, something is more stringent. Ava Divrei Soifrim, but in the Rabbanot, Kula and Chramor, they're all so severe. The Tzinat one as we learned of their Omer in film. Somebody says a Zokin Mamre says, and that's what we had in Sechel Sanhedrin. Zokin Mamre says a rebellious elder says ain't tefillin. Lavrol Divider. It says no mitzvah tefillin in the Torah, right? Potter is exempt from the death penalty. If he says Chamesh Totafos, if he says if he's 5 chambers opposed to 4 chambers, let's say for something to add on Rabbanon's Misaira and Drosha of 4 Totafos, then he's chayev. Then he's liable to Zokin Mamre. Rabbi Chia, Chanina b'shem Rabbi b'shem Rabbi Talmud, Rabbi Chia said, "Chamuchim divrei tzkenim divrei neviim." The words of the elders are more severe than the words of prophets. It's all back in the Sanhedrin. You'll see it says, "Al tatifu yatifu." Don't give nevuah. Don't literally drip nevuah to those drips. Okay, in other words, those people who are not going to listen to what you have to say. We'll see what it says. Atif l'cha, I will nevertheless continue to overflow to you li'ayin shecha, wine and intoxicating beverages, and that means the Torah we keep teaching, even though the nevuah we no longer give, and the Torah is the Rabbanos. Pnei Moshe that explains in greater detail. It's late. Not to get that. Continuing on, because also we had back in Sanhedrin, Navi is Zokin l'mayim doimim, a Navi and an elder. What are they analogous to? Navis, of course, represents and Torah Shbiksav. Zokin represents Torah Shbalpeh. We're like the Melchishol Shnei Santim Semitarin, and there in Sanhedrin it says parliamentarian Shalol Medina. Send it to the country. Alechem man Kosav, one of them he wrote the following notes. If he doesn't show you my seal, the Santamarn Shli, and my letter of approval, don't believe him. So to a Navi, right, has to give a sign. And the other one, he wrote, even though he doesn't show you a seal shali, and my letter of approval, believe him. Kach b'navi, so too by Navi Ksiva says, he's got to give you a sign or a wonder in order to believe him. Whereas by a chacham, based on Torah, he teaches you regardless of whether he gives you a sign or wonder or not. Okay. Getting back to our suga. Rabbi Yaakov Racha, Rabbi Shimon Bar Bava Shem, Rabbi Shimon Levi said, the reason why they asked for Gvinas Noch is because most of the calves in that location are Shechach Avodah Zarah. Now the calves, most rennet comes from calves, but not all rennet. So therefore, in the sum total of rennet, the minority came from Avodah Zarah. But in the sum total of calves, from which most rennet comes, the majority were from Avodah Zarah. That was enough of a reason to forbid Gvinas Nochri. Okay? Says Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan said, by the way, it's the same thing we had at the beginning of the Gemara. So some people erase that Gemara, some people erase this Gemara. It's repetitive. I'm just reading it again because I don't know which one's real repetition. Rabbi Yochanan said he found a ring in it. What's the story? I skipped. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan heard this, and Umar, and he said, Yofelim done a Rebbe taught us well, Shkei Shor Beim Avodah Zarah, I feel Pirush also, we shrech the Beim for Avodah Zarah purposes, even the refuse is prohibited. Rabbi Yochanan, boy, Rabbi Yochanan asked Motzabat Abbas, what if you find a ring? Rabbi Yossi Abbas, Beinai, the ring is independent, Pirush Gufai, the refuse is part and parcel of its body, and therefore, Slur Avodah Zarah, it's a problem. Says more Masorfa, it says from the Ola, you can swallow the rennet. What is Sorfa? Gamila can swallow it. Sorfa means you can Gamila, you can swallow it. It's like a disgusting cup, meaning, just like achila gasol is not considered to be achila, eating when it's reprehensible, so to drinking when it's reprehensible is not considered to be drinking. So that's why you can drink the rennet because it's reprehensible, so it's not a form of drinking, therefore it's not forbidden benefit from the ola. Okay? Says the Gemara, because even though the Tana then argues and says you can't drink it, but nevertheless, it's still, the principle is, because you're not allowed to derive benefit, but there's no me'ila if you do so. Why didn't Rabbi Shua not tell Rabbi Shmuel the reason? Fundamental issue. So it says, because they just recently forbade it. Now, the Bible says it was forbidden within the first 12 months. Within 12 months. And when a gzeira is made within the past 12 months, you don't say the reason over. Because then people think, well, we know the reason. If it doesn't apply, we don't have to keep the gzeira. So we want the gzeira to be established over the course of 12 months before we reveal the reason for the gzeira. We're smart. We're not stupid. Right? So we don't want them to know the reasons, so they can second guess us. We don't tell them reasons 12 months have elapsed. The Gilin Ephraim, however, puts on his best maskil's cap here, and he proved at some length that the Yerushalmi does not hold that it was within the first 12 months of the Gzeira. Even though the Bible says that in Eretz Yisrael they wouldn't reveal the reason for Gzeira until 12 months passed, nevertheless he proves that the Yerushalmi holds that it was much later. And he does this very, very elaborately. So he says Korov is lapdafka 12 months. And it's based primarily on the next line, because it says here that this Rabbi Shmuel at the time is Hayakata. Rabbi Shmuel was still a minor at the time, and that's why I didn't want to explain to him either. Right? It was recently asert, and he was still a cotton. Alright? Now it's interesting, and you don't tell over to Ketani, you don't tell him the secrets of everything the rabbis are doing. So he says that this Rabbi Shmuel, therefore it's not Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol, rather it's Rabbi Shmuel who was redeemed by Rabbi Yeshua as a captive in Rome, and the Gansa Maisa, he says, and the Gilin Ephraim therefore says it wasn't within the first 12 months of the Gzeira. Too complicated for now. Let's leave it alone. Says, but all you have to know is that according to the Bible, it's only within the first 12 months. We don't tell the reason. According to Yerushalmi, it could be even later than that. Okay? Says, Rabbi Chunia Amar, Rabbi Chamra Ukva Maksher. Rabbi Chunia said, Rabbi Chamra Ukva asked a fun question. It's a weird question. I didn't see any great insight into this. Said, even if he wanted to distract him, he should have used a better distraction. What's a better distraction? Ask him riddles. What riddles should he have asked him? Instead of asking him, doidim, dodayich, whatever it is, ask him, should have asked about the 5 psukim in the Torah where we don't know how to punctuate the pasuk. What are they? Those, and these are they. Se'es, arur, machar, meshukadim, v'kar. We're going to say what all these are. First of all, it's Ace. Hashem's told Kain, Haloim Tetiv Se'es, which is one way of reading it. If you'll be good, then you can bear it. Or the other way of reading that pasuk is Se'es Im Lo Tetiv. You'll bear the consequences if you're not good. So 2 ways of reading that pasuk. Next one. Ki ba'apam agru ish uvirtzonom ikrushor arur. When it says Shimon and Levi killed the city of Shechem, does it mean that with their anger they killed a person, and with their desire they uprooted a cursed wall? Or is it arur, is the word arur going in the second part of the pasuk? Arur apam kios, cursed is they're angry because it is strong. Similarly, Vayar Moshe Yoshua Tzelachem Ba'amalek Machar, is it read Moshe said to Yoshua, go out and fight Amalek tomorrow? Or is it read, O Machar Nochi Nitzav Rosh Giva Hashem, Moshe says that tomorrow I'm going to stand at the head of the mountain. Again, the word Machar could be read as part of either phrase. Similarly, by Menorah, Borg, Bim, Shukadim, is it to be read in the Menorah, there are 4 cups which were crafted with all sorts of ornamentation. Or Meshukadim, Kaftor Bracha, there's to be read that they were crafted ornamentation, it's buttons and it's flowers. And the one in Dvarim, Vayomer Hashem o Moshe, right, Hashem said to Moshe, Hilcha Shochevim Avosecha, you will lie with your fathers, Vikam, and then you will rise, and this would be allusion to Chias HaMesim. Or is it Vikam or Amazeh, this nation will arise and they will commit all sorts of Averos. Okay? Vizana, they will go after foreign gods. Rabbi Tanchuma Mosif Hod Adah. Rabbi Tanchuma add another one. Ubnei Yaakov bo minasada kishamam, by the mice of Shechem. Is it to be read, the children of Yaakov came from the field when they heard what happened to Dinah? O kishamam, or is it to be read, when they heard Vayisatz v'anoshim, they were very sad about what happened to Dinah? The Chazam Sefer is a whole pilpul why this is not in the Bavli, this last case. We're not going to get into it. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Law, so why Taka did he not distract him with one of these riddles? These are fine riddles. They can drive a person nuts. Instead he used this thing of Dodayich, Dadayich, whatever it is. So says Rabbi Law, I tell you why. Rabbi Law said, it's because Yeshrim Shem Shikin Lemisapeh want to tell him, it says Yishakenim in the Shikos Piyu. Shakenim in Shikos Piyu means sometimes kiss, but sometimes it means shut your mouth. Okay? Close your mouth. Right? So that's what it means. Sometimes we silence the mouth. Kissing sometimes silences. And that's the idea. Something things we don't discuss. Okay? So the reason for the Gzera, shortly after the Gzera is given, or while you're still a minor. It says, Vosi Tzivo Hashem. Right? It says, Ve'osi Tzivo Hashem. With a Vav. We darshan that Vosi Vosi means certain things were commanded between God and me, personally, Moshe Rabbeinu says. Vosi nemar li dvarim shenemar lechem. Certain things were said to me that I should say to you. Li dvarim shenemar beinil lebeinu. It means certain things that are said to me, Moshe Rabbeinu, which are between me and myself, meaning not to be revealed. Nachman said, some idea, kvoshim luvu l'shechel. Actually, it's read kivosim, which means washed. Washing. I don't remember what that means. Price of the field, something atudim is goats. I don't remember exactly what that means. Anyway, but be that as it may, what we're that beef, right? Kivoshim, because it's written with, it is written kivosim, and we read it kivoshim. Kivosim, one of them means washed. Maybe actually kivosim is sheep. Anyway, the idea is, I'm not sure exactly. Anyway, be that as it may, it can be read kivosim and kivoshim. And kivoshim means hidden or submerged. Okay, it's a b'shah shetalmidim, talmidim k'danim, when the talmidim are young, kivoshim b'nei divrei Torah. Suppress divrei Torah. You don't reveal to them everything. Kigdilu, when they become older, v'nasu kasurim, they become like older goats, galelem razi Torah, then reveal, kivosim means wash it in front of them, right? They reveal to them divrei Torah. The Dom Esai Lamad, the time of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, this is a riot that which Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, Ve'el mishpatim asher tosim lifnehem. It says, these are the judgments which you should put in front of them. But we darshan tosim is the lotion of sima. And the sima means a treasure. Ma'asima zos ein nigles l'kol bria. Since Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, of course, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is the one who holds of Sisrei Torah, right? Just like a treasure is not revealed to every person, you cannot immerse yourself. Literally go down to the depths of the Torah, elif nebe adam shem, unless it's in front of kosher and proper people. Okay, not everybody should have purview and access to the secrets of Torah. And we're saying the same thing about the Takonas Rabbanan. We don't always reveal the secrets of the Takonas Rabbanan. Okay, I think we'll stop here for this evening. Tomorrow we go to Chol of Yisrael.